Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
And hello there. I'm in a true Monday state of mind. We're trying to shake the cobwebs off because I recall saying to you last time we spoke that God knows what's going to happen between now and the next time we speak. And, well, it now has happened. All of it, what transpired from Thursday afternoon until this morning has happened, and it's left me exhausted. It's left me in despair. It's left me... I heard somebody say that it's not that we're numb. It's that we're traumatized. And I think that rang true to me. We're traumatized. I happened to turn the TV on. I forget what day it was. Maybe Saturday. Was it Saturday? I can't remember. And I already knew there'd been a mass shooting. But I turned the TV on and they were talking about a whole bunch of other people dead. And it was clear it wasn't, and it was Texas. And I thought, you're kidding me. You mean there's another? You mean now we're going to get two a day? Used to be one a week, used to be one a month, one a week, one every few weeks, one every hour. There's nothing that hasn't been said, and I so want to shake the media for just continuing to report this as if, well, first of all, the definition of news is that which is, unusual, or that which is not normal. I mean, dog bites man. No, that's not news. Man bites dog is news. So mass shootings in this country are not news anymore. They're the norm. They're a given. So why do we? I don't know. I don't know what the answers are. I don't know. I got the questions. I've been asking the same questions for decades. And it's astonishing to me that the Republicans can stick absolutely steadfastly to their routine of thoughts and prayers, and it's all about mental illness and never mentioning guns. And in fact, when they do mention guns, we got to get more. Huh. So this is like mass insanity. We have, many of us thought that mental illness seems to be sort of the core of the Republican Party now. The refusal to acknowledge reality. And so if you have one of the major parties, and a party that is in total control of a frightening number of our states, and that party is insane. That party has gone off the rails. And you know how much off the rails it's gone? Their own constituents are begging them to do something. And it's not more guns. Their own constituents are saying, no, we're for background checks. No, we're for, outlawing this and that. We're for, no, you should have to take a class before you can get the people who vote them into power are saying to them, no, we think those things make some sense. And the Republicans so sure that the power they have is, I don't know, God-given. They don't feel a need to respond to their constituents, begging them to do something different. They don't blink. I'm all right. Unbelievable. I did see this. There was in the Texas Senate, whoever the senator is who represents Uvalde, little by little, we are all getting a lesson in Texas geography. I mean, we all now know place names we didn't know. And it's because Texas is becoming essentially a killing field. But the senator who represents Uvalde, where, of course, 19 children died while armed police officers stood twiddling their thumbs, where 19 children died and nothing was done to change anything. The stupidest question is if a reporter says, do you think this time will be different? Or do you think this will finally change things? We've all gone collectively mad. We know you can mow down children. Sandy Hook, Uvalde, and nothing will change because Republicans say it can't. At the federal level, at the state level, can't. And people still elect them. Incredible. So the senator from Uvalde stood up in the state Senate in Austin. And he started talking about guns and the need to pass legislation that would start getting even a slight handle on the problem. And he was told, this is from the New York Times front page, he was told by the Republican leader of the state Senate to stop bringing up gun legislation or be barred from speaking at all. We've seen this in Tennessee. We've seen this in other Republican captured state governments where legislators representing other people are not allowed to speak, are silenced, are censured, are thrown out, expelled. Because the Republicans have power, and the Republicans have no desire to listen to any opposing points of view. And because they have power, the way they see it, they don't have to. The only thing to be done, and I weary and despair of this ever happening, is obviously the people of Texas have to vote them out. Here's the thing. Two of the most populous states. Are they the two most populous states? I don't know. Texas, California. They are leading in the, gun deaths. And what's interesting is California has very stringent laws. Texas, of course, has none. And yet I believe, last I heard, although maybe with these latest, the Texans are pulled ahead and are number one, California actually had more. Okay, deaths, gun deaths, or in mass killings. Who the hell knows? But what does that tell you? It tells you that nothing can be done about this because guns are portable. We don't have checkpoints at state borders. California can pass all the gun laws it wants and no problem whatsoever bringing guns in or getting them or whatever. So this is a federal issue and nothing can be done about it because Republicans control one house of the Congress and are almost in control of the other. So sorry if you're prone to paranoia or easily spooked. Well, God help you, because going to the grocery store, going to the mall, going to the movies, going to church, going to the synagogue, going to school, going to a concert, sitting in your own home, it can happen to you. Have we at least stopped? I think I hear it less often in the I was going to say it's like Groundhog Day, the movie reporting. When you see the reporting of the latest and it's like, wait a minute, haven't I seen this before? There's always that person saying, I mean, I just didn't think it could happen here. Does anyone ever say that anymore? That's the stupidest thing to say. It is so stupid. It's mind-bogglingly stupid. I didn't think it could happen here. And here's the other thing you hear. Well, he kept to himself. I don't want to hear about these men. I don't want to hear about them. The victims deserve our attention, I guess. But to see the victims, and here again, what was it? I'm sorry, the numbers started escaping me. Was it, however, 7 dead, 8 dead? I can't remember. Sorry for that. But the wounded are like, 8 or 9 others wounded. Let me tell you something. You know who was wounded? Anyone who was anywhere around that place went running for their lives, heard the guns going off, the screams, saw the bloodied bodies of children. All of these people are victimized. Their families are victimized. Even you and I sitting in, so far, our massacre-less houses. It hasn't happened here yet. We are, as I said earlier, traumatized. I don't know what to say. Well, who doesn't know what to say? You sure been talking for a long time. Oh, thank you, Barbara. What did I know? Well, she says, she sent me something that says, here are the other 7 mass shootings over the weekend in the United States. There were 7 others that just couldn't muscle their way into my consciousness. So other than the one in Allen, Texas Mall, there were 6 other mass shootings over the weekend. Well, of course. This is American exceptionalism, writ large in blood. God. All right, well. And I don't have anything left to say. Can I share a? By the way, the debt ceiling thing, that's getting nervous making. If you set aside your nervousness because you're about to go out to the giant eagle and you don't want to be massacred, you could give a moment to the debt ceiling because I don't know. This game of chicken looks like it's going down to the wire. I said I'm not going to talk about it, and I'm not because I can't do a damn thing except watch our so-called leaders play this baby to its end game. I want to read a letter that I saw. Well, I just see Kurt sent me something. Let me get this in because it's on topic. Kurt writes, people know it can happen anywhere now. Here's a quote from a bystander at the Texas mall shooting. He's a 36-year-old shopping with his parents for an upcoming vacation when they saw people running. Quote, it was just kind of chaotic for a second. Then when someone said shooter, we all ran to the back of the store. As Americans, we're used to this because everyone knew exactly what to do. Well, yes, the children shall lead you, yes, out of the mouths of babes, because our children have been traumatized from the minute they go into kindergarten by active shooter drills in school. So, because I went to school long before this happened with such regularity or at all, I don't have that same knowledge. It's sort of like, if something goes wrong with your iPhone or your computer, you need a kid. Well, we need a kid now when there's an active shooter. They know what to do. There's a very powerful letter to the editor in the New York Times the other day. I want to share it with you because it was, whoa, powerful, I believe I said. Comes from a woman named Sandy McDonald of New York. She is responding to the E. Jean Carroll trial and the fact that a big to-do was made about the fact that E. Jean Carroll did not scream when allegedly Donald Trump raped her. And Sandy McDonald writes this. I didn't scream when I regained consciousness while being raped by a boy who was part of a group of exchange students newly arrived in southern Vermont. I had offered them a ride to their dorm from the Brattleboro bar where I worked, and as thanks, they invited me in for a glass of the wine they'd brought from their native country. I didn't scream when the room began to spin. Awakening, pinned, I didn't scream when I heard other boys pounding on the door. They want their turn, the boy on top of me said. I didn't scream. To protect myself from further rape, I told him I liked him best and wanted only him. I didn't scream as dawn finally broke and I cautiously collected my clothes to walk naked through the snow to my car. I didn't scream when my gynecologist noted vaginal abrasions. I didn't scream when a cop I considered my friend told me not to bother to report the rape, that I'd be the one scrutinized. Instead, I wrote a letter to the head of the exchange program, concerned for the families that these boys were about to join. I didn't scream upon receiving his elegantly worded response, alluding to the boys' completely inexcusable behavior. I didn't scream when I cashed the $40 check he'd drawn on the program's account to reimburse me for medical expenses. He earmarked it entertainment. A half century has gone by, and I have never stopped screaming inside. Oh, dear God in heaven. I'm sorry. Who was saying to me the other day, it was a young person, that it can't be good for you to have to follow all this stuff. And it's not. It's not. But whether I did this program or not, I would still be following it because that's just me. I follow. I stay tuned in. And it's forgive me. Let's see here. Let's do the obit of the day. You know who it is, probably. Minow. Minow. If you're old like me, you remember this guy. He was appointed to head the FCC by John Kennedy. He was really young. And it's a speech he gave. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if he'd get the big obit he got if it weren't for that speech he gave, which has pissed him off, by the way. It was quite clear from reading some of the obituaries I've read about him that, if one thing you do goes viral even before going viral didn't even exist, that's what's on your tombstone, buddy. And it doesn't matter if you want to add some kind of addendum to it now. It doesn't matter, because Newton Minow and vast wasteland are forever joined. I remember when he said it because it was big news. You had the head of the Federal Communications Commission, which was a toothless regulatory agency totally in bed with broadcast lobbyists and the industry. You had this young upstart that Kennedy had put in charge, speaking before, I believe it was the National Association of Broadcasters, which is the big umbrella organization of the guys who own and control television and radio. The National Association of Broadcasters in Minow was speaking to them. I don't think he didn't get a lot of applause. This was it was a gutsy speech. That's why it got so much. He said, watch television for a day. He's talking to the people who put it out there. Sit down and watch television for a day. Stay there. And Minow. Stay there without a book, magazine, newspaper. your profit and loss sheets or rating books to distract you. Just sit there and keep your eyes glued to that set until the station signs off. Remember when the stations they signed off as early as 10 p.m. They'd usually, where I was from, they played the Star Spangled Banner and then it just went to a test pattern or snow. Static. You sit there until the station signs off, Minow said to the big shots. I can assure you that you will observe a vast wasteland. They were not happy. He didn't let up. And he said, if you think I exaggerate, try it. They didn't like it. And you know what? What would he say about television today? That was 1961 or 2, I guess. So the producers of Gilligan's Island, one of the finer offerings on television at the time, the boat that sank, that left them in the sitcom stranded on Gilligan's Island, the boat that sank was named the SS Minow, right? And it was obviously a dig at him. They were not happy. Minow says, they just stuck to those 2 words, vast wasteland, which I didn't think were that important. I had 2 different words in mind. Public interest. He wanted these people who had licenses given to them by the FCC to operate in the public interest. And throughout his career in broadcasting, which wasn't all that long, Minow did. He was instrumental, actually, in getting the first telecom satellite up, which he thinks is a more important thing to do than, say, vast wasteland. He's quoted in his obit as saying, I went to President Kennedy and said that these communication satellites were more important than sending men into space because they would send ideas into space, and ideas last longer than people. You know how naive that sounds now? Because it's what we thought about the internet. Newton Minow never considered that something other than ideas would be used. Misinformation, disinformation, conspiracy theories. Anyway, so he said it. It was a big to-do, and he didn't. The fact is, one network did try to. At one point, he held some hearings, and NBC, actually probably trying to curry favor with Newton, did an entire primetime special about the issues he was concerned with. The problem was that NBC's special aired opposite Maverick on ABC and Mr. Ed on CBS, and was trounced in the ratings. Another thing he did, which is, I don't know if I mean, he played a big role in Barack Obama's life because he gave Barack Obama a shot at the law firm he headed after the FCC. He gave Barack Obama a job, summer job, and that's where Barack Obama met Michelle Robinson was already an attorney there. So who knows if Minow hadn't given Barack Obama that, if we would, think of history. Oh, God. Okay. I'll give one more quote from Newton. Good man. For 50 years, we have bombarded our children with commercials disguised as programs and with endless displays of violence and sexual exploitation. We are nearly alone in the democratic world in not providing our candidates with public service television time. Instead, we make them buy it. So money consumes and corrupts our political discourse. Yeah, but it makes all those guys who own all the stations really rich because they love election time. They make more money off of the noxious ads and commercials that we are subjected to than they make the whole rest of the year. I mean, they should give time away after, well, sure they should, right? Well, speaking of old TV, wait, I got a letter here that I want to share with you. It's from Kurt, and he got infuriated at some point when he heard that the principal and vice principal in some Louisiana school supposedly refused to allow a trans student to use their chosen name at graduation. So it's amazing to me, but they did. So the kid would be called a name that they had left behind, but the school said no. And Kurt sent me a letter that he sent to the principal and vice principal. And I mention it because he mentions the TV series, The Rifleman. Why am I blanking on who played the Rifleman and who his brother was? Is that they were both big, tall. They were both, well, someone's going to, I know, it's one of those things, I know, but this is one of those age things where I just can't find it right now. Chuck. Right? Okay, here it is. He wrote the principal and vice principal this. There's an episode of an old TV show I remember fondly. This episode, titled Honest Abe, and it features a man who has taken on the persona of Abe Lincoln, a delusion resulting from the trauma of his service in the Civil War. The Rifleman, and indeed the entire town, responded to this man's affliction by playing along. The message to the Rifleman's son, Mark, and to the audience was that accepting Abe as he presented himself is the kind thing to do. They knew Honest Abe would have to find his own way, whatever it was. It is a delightfully sweet story of compassion to those who are different. Isn't that interesting? So even though that was in the same era that Newton Minow was talking about a vast wasteland, Kurt still remembers this one episode, which which had such an influence on him, and it was a positive moral. And he says to these guys, think about where you'd find yourself in this story. Civil disagreements are to be expected. Everyone's opinion on any subject, including transsexuality, deserves a certain amount of respect. What can't be respected is manifesting one's opinion in cruelty for children whose identity is different for reasons none of us can ever understand. Kindness is an expression of our faith in God's plan for them. Mistreating them is an overt challenge to his plan. Well done. Not that it made a damn bit of difference, right? Okay. You know, speaking of the corruption of money in our culture, I'm sorry, I've got nothing happy. I got nothing happy here. This is what happens on Mondays. Oh, the coronation. I didn't watch. I did not. Who could? I'm sorry, and I'm nothing on you if you did. What absurdity! I mean, the little bits I've seen in pictures. What nonsense! How do they do that with a straight face? I mean, how does Charles, who is a modern human being, he's involved in thinking about the future and blah, 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 in environmental causes. How does he sit there with a straight face while he's, given all these stupid things to hold? And that 5-pound jewel encrusted thing stuck on his head. Every picture I saw, he did not look happy. I guess it's solemn. And then I understand they had this screen they put him behind at one point, so he could commune with God. He and God are like, because he's now, this is all Henry VIII. Henry VIII. Look what he did. So because of Henry VIII, chopping off all those heads and this and that, and blah, 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 because he, having trouble getting the air he wanted. And the reality is now this guy, Charles, ends up having to practically undress, I guess, and go behind this screen. So the Archbishop of Canterbury can put oil from Jerusalem on him or something. And so he can... commune with God. So that was going on, apparently. The New York Times has a piece today, and it says Charles had a special anointing screen commissioned for the occasion, using traditional and contemporary sustainable embroidery practices. You can't make it up. You can't make it up. And then, well, it's not for me. I mean, you got the pedophile, his pedophile brother, who was sort of, not allowed to ride in any of the official carriages. You had, or wear any official regalia because he's been thrown out. You have his son, who wrote the tell-all book in the same situation. They were not allowed, and certainly not on the balcony. And in fact, we're not even invited back to the palace. Oh God! And those gold carriages! You gotta be kidding me! Can you imagine just how much real estate is employed to like keep in storage all these ludicrous costumes and regalia, and I don't know. What? It's so stupid. Yeah, I don't know. All right, I'm done. I mean, I'm done with that. I saw that a Michigan school, and I guess they're not alone, has banned backpacks. So the kids, those backpacks you see kids wearing, even little young ones, and the pack is as big as them. I mean, you think, my God, what are you doing to them? They're like hauling around. Like, what would a 8-year-old have that many books? Especially in this digital age. It just, they're stooped over, schlepping around their books. Anyway, school districts are starting to ban backpacks. Why? Well, there could be guns in them. Oh, yeah. And there have been guns in them. Mm-hmm. And so for security reasons, no more backpacks. Well, then, I have a few questions. Number one, and I can't remember. I never had a backpack. I went through elementary school, middle school, high school, college. I never had a backpack. I needed to carry a book. I carried a book. I never had a backpack. That's how old I am. We used to go to school without backpacks. Here's what I want to know. Where were our books? I can't remember. I know I had a locker. I had a desk. I mean, in some instances, you had your own desk so that books were in them. And I guess if you took a book home, then you would bring the book. I have no recollection of having to schlep back and forth my books. My spine was able to stay relatively straight throughout the course of my education. So these ubiquitous backpacks, try saying that 3 times fast. Ubiquitous backpack, I can't. Are maybe going to go the way of the dodo bird, because we're not going to get rid of guns, but we will get rid of the backpacks. Oh my God. So and I have to, here's something else I just have to say, because it was, again, an event over the weekend, and that I did not watch the Kentucky Derby. I just want to say this. I don't know what's going on, but it needs to stop. If this sport results in the deaths of these magnificent animals, then fucking stop it. My God. It's one thing for in the cycling world, we find out that, what? You mean Lance Armstrong was drugged up to the hilt? Well, that's fine. I mean, that's not as bad. These horses These horses, they don't choose to get stuck with God knows what, how many drugs coursing through their bodies so that they run faster than, in fact, they really can or should, so that they run on a bruised hoof or I don't know. They're making these animals and they're killing them. They're killing them. This is unbelievable. There were 7 horses that had died just at that friggin' racehorse and track in like 4 or 5 days before the Derby, and then horses getting pulled out because I guess they were worried they'd die too. What the hell? Those magnificent animals, so totally doped up on God knows what, painkillers, anti-inflammatories, steroids. I don't know what they're doing to them. Stop it. I can't watch. It's like watching a train wreck. All those beautiful animals, and you think one of them is going to get killed. One of them is going to, that's it. You just like, shoot them. It says here, horse racing in the United States has long admitted that it has a culture of drugs and lax regulation and a far higher rate of horses breaking down and being euthanized than most other places in the world. I'm sick of our exceptionalism. I mean, how every story, it seems, there's this addendum. America, unlike all the other nations in the world. Hey, by the way, Serbia, which has had 2 mass killings also since last we spoke, turns out that Serbia is number 3 in the world in per capita gun ownership. So that makes sense. The problem is the government of Serbia, seeing that now there's this copycat thing going on because Serbs got guns, and now they're deciding to do what Americans have been doing. They're gonna confiscate the guns. They don't have a Second Amendment. The Second Amendment. Oh, man. Oh, would you like to resurrect one of the founding fathers? I'll take the most conservative founding father. I don't know, any. Resurrect them and show them what the Second Amendment begot. And ask, was this the well-regulated militia you were referring to? I suspect not. Roger writes, yeah, this is true. Talking about the banning of backpacks. He says, well, I mean, today there are idiots who think books are more dangerous than guns. That's true. That's true. They'll ban books, but not guns. And that's all you need to know. Oh, man. So this little article I just want to point out that caught my eye, and it's because, well, I mentioned Prince, who was it, Andrew, I guess, Jeffrey Epstein, tarnished member of the royal family. Well, this is somebody else who's been tarnished by Jeffrey Epstein. But it's fascinating, the quotes from this story. This is a story about one college president. You know what college presidents have to do? You know what their job is? Yeah. Raise money. That's all college presidents are about. That is the job. Money, 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 money. That's the job. Education? Money, 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 money. Now, the head of Bard College, which is considered, highly considered an extremely progressive school. He apparently was, there was an article written, I think, in the Wall Street Journal, which was not, I'm sure he didn't like, because it was about the fact that he took money for the college from Jeffrey Epstein. And here's some of the quotes. This is a college president speaking truthfully. I love it. People don't understand what this job is. You cannot pick and choose, because among the very rich is a higher percentage of unpleasant and not very attractive people. Capitalism is a rough system. He's saying, look, my job is to shake down capitalists. However, nobody said, because the end, it's money. We need money. But the people who employ me say, money, 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 money. How much have you gotten me? Now, Epstein, as you know, gave to a lot of universities. He gave to Harvard. He gave to MIT. I mean, people took his money. Larry Summers, he was the president of Harvard. He went begging for some project his wife was working on. All these guys are on the take all the time. And they have access to the guys with money. One of the left's icons, Noam Chomsky. Noam Chomsky, ladies and gentlemen. He got some of Jeffrey Epstein's money. And here again is the president of Bard. These guys all accepted money after Epstein had been, it was known that he'd, something with some young girl or whatever. He had been accused of sexually abusing girls. As you'll recall, through rich money buys you really good lawyers, buys you other people in public situations, and everything got minimized. And so even after that had happened, it was a Florida newspaper, right, that kept on him and that finally outed him. But the president of Bard says this: would we accept money from Jeffrey Epstein today? No. Went on to call him a monster, a truly evil man. And then, quote, we had no idea. The public record had no indication that he was anything more than an ordinary, if you could say such a thing, sex offender. I love it. We had no idea. I mean, the public record had no indication that he was anything more than an ordinary, if you could say such a thing, sex offender who had been convicted and went to jail. You know, ordinary sex offenders will take their money, but geez, we didn't know he was, you know, all this other lurid stuff came up. And the president of the bar goes on. It's a humiliating experience to go back to these people over and over. We're completely at the mercy of the very wealthy. In fact, Bard College has a program for convicted felons because in their progressivism, they believe in second chances, and so it's okay. There was another guy who was the head of George Washington University, and he said, "Man, he was agreeing with this guy. End up mingling with the most repulsive characters just to get money." And this guy's name is Stephen Trachtenberg. He said he had considered accepting donations from Scientologists and from Muammar Gaddafi, but ultimately rejected them. And then in an interview when he was 85, he said, "I never regretted my decision regarding Gaddafi, but I still wonder whether I made the right call with the Scientologists." He said, "You know, I could have put 10 students through college for the kind of money they were offering." So you're always trying to figure out how to balance the source of the money with the purpose that you're applying the money to. You don't often think, you know, I'm thinking pictures of like coal miners, you know, with their blackened faces and having, or just people who do jobs that are like where you got to get down and dirty. You don't think of college presidents in that way, but these guys are saying, you know, though, it's a different kind of getting sullied, kissing the asses of these disgusting rich people. Oh, Barbara sent me a picture of two little kids from like the 50s going off to school. They had lunch boxes. Oh, the little girl's got something that looks, it's not a backpack, but it is something that's probably got a book in it. Yeah, we had lunch boxes. I didn't because we lived 3 blocks from school and we went home. We ran back home for lunch and then went back to school. Best of all possible worlds, I guess, kind of, sort of, who knows. Okay, I got one more thing and then we're done. This is, I think this is Charlie Sykes writing. He was talking about how, you know, if you think about the standards or lack thereof in this country for some of the most important positions, like President of the United States, the fact that Donald Trump was ever the president of the United States and looks about to be nominated again by the same party for the job again is really mind-blowing. Because as Charlie Sykes pointed out, no publicly traded company would ever consider naming Donald Trump to an executive position or even give him a position on a board. No one would. None of his billionaire friends would trust him with their money. Even in our debased political culture, the cascade of rape allegations and indictments would force Trump's resignation if he were a senator, if he were a governor, if he were a legislator, if he were the mayor, if he were the dog catcher, right? Trump would not be allowed to own an NFL team, an NBA team, a baseball team. No one would ever think of giving him a management job, even at a local Burger King. It's impossible to imagine him being given any position of authority at any school or university in the United States. That is all true. But he can be fucking president. All right, I'm sorry. I'm out of here. God dang. We have the lowest standards for our highest office. And that, guys, is a big, big problem. Okay, that's it for me. Have a good one. I'll be back tomorrow.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.